You were not meant to be a slave to the grind. You were not meant to trade your life force for money. You can escape gravity. You can unlock your life. You got this. Let's go.
Hey guys, and welcome to Unlock Your Life. You got Jennings Smith here, and I appreciate you tuning in today, being with me today, investing in yourself. Means a lot, and I have a phenomenal message for you today. This message, I heard this and it blew me away. So I wanted to share it with you. But before I do that, let me tell you about a little story. I was in North Carolina, Western North Carolina, in the Smoky Mountains on the Appalachian Trail. Yeah, I was with my church and I was leading a men's hike. So there was, maybe 15 of us hiking through the woods for 4 days. Half day Thursday, then full day Friday, Saturday, and a half day Sunday. And fun time, great time. But as we're going up there, the park rangers and all the literature is just warning us of bears, right? You need to use bear bags. You need to be hauling up all of your food and stuff into bear bags at night. Make sure you don't have any food in your tent. Make sure you don't have any food in your backpack. Bears kind of learn to associate people with food, and they've been known to attack people, even though black bears typically aren't super aggressive like a grizzly, but it still can happen, and be very, very cautious of bears. So this is in my brain, and I'm the hike leader, and we're going along, and we're deep, deep into the forest at this point. I mean, we've been going for, a day and a half, maybe 2 days at this point. And I'm in the front and I'm kind of far ahead of the next guy behind me. And I'm rounding the corner on the trail and I see this brown, shaggy movement out of the corner of my eye, right? It was a bear. And I froze. My heart started just pounding, and chemical dump of adrenaline, cortisol, all this stuff. And you have three reactions, fight, flight, or freeze. And I froze. I just stopped moving and stared. And as I'm standing there for a couple more seconds, stock still, the bear comes out onto the trail. And that's when I realized this was not a bear. It was a deer. It was a brown doe deer. And in the corner of my eye, through the woods and the foliage, this brown shaggy thing was definitely a bear. And it wasn't. It was a deer. But because I had been, listening about this, I was on high alert and looking for threats. That is how my brain interpreted it. But once it hit my logic and I could see clearly, okay, wait a minute, this is just a deer. Within a minute or two, I kind of calmed down and sigh of relief, and everything was fine. And we went on. But here's the cool thing. And this is what I learned the other day that I wanted to share with you. We have a part of our brain called the amygdala. You probably have heard of the amygdala, but this was pretty unique. I had never heard this. Whenever something happens to us, right, we have a sensory input, taste, touch, smell, sight, whatever. The information is going up the spinal cord to the brain or the optic nerve or wherever. And FYI, I'm not a doctor, so some of this stuff may not be 100% accurate medically, but it clones the input. Right? So it clones the input and it sends one copy to the amygdala, simultaneously sending one copy to our logical brain. Right? And the amygdala, in a few milliseconds faster, or half a millisecond, it scans that information, right? And it scans it for threats. Is there change here? Is there danger? Should I protect myself? Right? So when I saw the shaggy movement in the woods, a copy went to my amygdala, scan it for threats, boom, yes, there's a threat. Red alert, red alert, red alert, bear, watch out. And then, My logical brain kicked in, more information was given, it was a deer, and everything was fine, right? So you need your amygdala. It's incredibly important because it scans for threats. Somebody drawing a gun on you or attacking you, robbing you, an animal attack, somebody threatening your family or yourself or your safety, right? We need that protection, and it's an amazing feature. However, we can also get the amygdala to kick in through emotional threat, right? Not necessarily only physical threats. So I want to talk to you about some words. I'm going to say a few statements, and I want you to close your eyes, relax, unless you're driving, of course, but focus on what I'm saying here for a minute. Bear with me. You are kind. You're a smart person. You can do it. I believe in you. I think you have a great family. Wow, you must really care about your kids. Dude, people really think a lot of you. You've got a lot of respect in this community. Okay? So you're thinking about these things, and as I'm saying them, the input, probably through your auditory ears, is running through the brain. It's cloning it, sending one clone to the amygdala and one clone to your logical brain. Your amygdala is scanning those things that I just said, right? And no threat detected, right? It's scanning all your memories, all your grasp of the English language, and it's deciding, okay, these are not threats. They're not speaking threats to me. Jennings isn't rallying me up in any way, and it passes it on to the logical brain. Logical brain thinks about it and probably doesn't mean a whole lot, right? He isn't speaking specifically about my situation. Maybe I don't even know you personally, but for whatever reason, it's just sort of like, it is what it is. It's cool. He's saying these nice things, but it does not affect me in a big way. Okay? Now I want you to do the same thing. Close your eyes, get in a state, and focus on these next statements. And these are ad lib, right? I don't have these written down. I'm just making these up on the fly. So focus on what I'm saying now. You don't have what it takes. In fact, you're a failure. Everything I've ever seen you try at, either quit or you do get it done, but it doesn't even matter because it was wrong. You've tried so many things. You just start and stop. You have no discipline. Most of the people that know you just put up with you. They don't even like you. They just talk to you out of pure politeness. What kind of example are you setting for your kids? Okay, guys, I don't even like saying those things. I don't even like speaking those into existence, but I want you to go through the same little exercise, right? So your amygdala, your brain took in those things, cloned it. Amygdala now is sensing threats, right? And maybe you even knew that I was about to do that, and maybe you were already even gearing up a little bit emotionally for what I was about to say. So the amygdala processes these threats and dumps cortisol, dumps adrenaline. Now maybe you're thinking, well, that didn't happen for me because you don't know me. You don't know my situation. That has nothing to do with me. And you're totally right. When you think about it logically, I have no clue who's listening to this show. I have no clue what situation you're in. I have no clue your achievements or lack thereof, what you can do, what kind of example you're setting. I have no idea. And yet, after maybe that initial defensive whatever, a lot of us are going to start thinking about some lingering feelings, right? Well, maybe he is right. There are some things that I've started that I haven't finished. And there are some things that I went down the road with them, and at the end, it was the wrong thing to even do. It didn't amount to anything. And, oh man, I did. I was yelling at my kids the other day. I'm really not setting a great example for them. Like, you're starting to think about what I said and maybe even make them true. And now I want you to go back to the first story, right? The bear and the deer. What happened to me as soon as I saw the deer? Well, I was flooded with relief. I realized, oh, it's not true that there's a bear in the woods that's about to eat me or kill me. It's not true. It's a deer. It's a harmless deer. It's a doe. And she just walked across the path and walked off, disappeared into the woods. Threat gone. Eliminated. Feel better. No problem. Keep hiking. Move on with my life. And yet, emotional threats don't work like that. Physical threats, when they're gone, they're gone. Emotional threats, they can penetrate and dig in deeper. And they don't reset as easily, right? You can't just, oh, well, it wasn't true and it doesn't mean anything to me. I'm just going to let it roll off my back. Much harder. Those things linger around. And so, twofold. One, consider the power of your words. Consider the power of your words with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, your family, your coworkers, your employees, whoever you're coming in contact with, because to think that those words don't matter, that they don't linger, that they don't affect the complete, even physical structure of our brain, down to the neurons, the synapses, and how well they're firing, whether our brains are growing or shrinking, is all linked to this feedback. But secondly, think about who's talking to you the most often? Who's telling you these sort of things the most often? Because it probably is not an abusive spouse or relationship or your dad or something. It might be from time to time, and you may need to do something about those relationships. But most often, it's the person in the mirror. It's the person that was talking to you after I said those things that was reinforcing those things. So yeah, you kind of do that. Yeah, you kind of are like that. Yeah, you kind of have given up on some things. And those generate the same emotion as somebody else saying it. Your brain doesn't know the difference. Those thoughts are flowing into the amygdala. It's processing a threat. It's dumping cortisol. It's lingering. And it's preventing your logical brain from making the right decision. Right? The right decision. How many times have you not done something because, well, you don't even know why, maybe, right? I was talking to a guy the other day. He's in my real estate group. I got a real estate group, My First Million in multifamily, and I have a mentoring group, a private coaching mentoring group, the Deal Room. And he's in the Deal Room. He's talking to me about not making calls to like off-market apartment deals. Like that's a really good way to find deals, is to just call apartment owners and talk to them. And we're walking through why he doesn't want to do it. And the core of it was he thought he was going to get rejected. If he gets rejected, it's going to feel bad and it's going to be uncomfortable and it's not going to be fun. And he doesn't want to feel that way. And so he's already kind of feeling that way, right? Because he's thinking it, and the brain doesn't necessarily know. It's almost like he's already being rejected before he's even been rejected, because his brain is telling him that's maybe what's going to happen and that's going to feel terrible. And so we got to protect you from this threat. So we're not going to let you do this action. Wait, what? Yeah, the amygdala is trying to protect him from a threat. Like it thinks it's a physical threat, like a bear is going to eat him. And so it will not allow him to logically process through that and take the action that he wants to take, right? He wants to close an apartment deal. He wants to find a deal. Well, how are you going to find a deal if you don't talk to anybody? Well, it's pretty hard. So we kind of thought through that and thought, well, okay, well, hold on. Let's take this away from the amygdala, right? Let's take this out of the lizard brain. Let's put it into the logical brain for a minute. And I was not feeding him these statements. I was working with him so that he could say these statements. He could bring it out. He could make it real, right? Because a man convinced against his will is of the same opinion still. I want this to be his opinion. I want this to be his thoughts and have his buy-in so that he'll actually implement it. So what could happen if you got rejected? Like, let's say some of this does happen to you, which it may not, but let's just say it does happen to you. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? Well, it's bad. All right. Well, what's good about it? Well, the good thing is I know that person doesn't want to sell to me anymore, and I don't need to waste my time with them. Okay, good. What else is good about it? I'm closer to the next person that I call actually wanting to sell and maybe making a deal. Awesome. What else is good? And he kind of stared at me blankly. No, nothing. I mean, I can't. No, I was like, really think, what else is good about this? And he came to the realization that, well, he's putting in another rep. He's getting a little bit mentally tougher. He's pushing down his amygdala, lizard brain, and he's pushing forward with his logical brain. And when I got him around that corner to sort of see, wow, a rejection, it is a good thing. It could be a good thing. It is going to get me closer to my goal. And the only way to find what I'm looking for is most likely to go through some rejection. And that's where I wanted to take him. Not that, oh, no one's going to reject you. It's all in your head. Don't worry about it. Because somebody might. I don't know who's going to pick up the phone on the other end, be a real jerk and cuss them out. I think it's far less than people really think it's going to be, but could happen. And so what happens when that happens? Logically, how is that a good thing? Because I've talked about in another episode, how to achieve anything, where nothing in our life is good or bad until we assign a thought to it. And so somebody hanging up on you on a cold call or getting rejected, we're assigning that as a bad thing. Well, it doesn't have to be a bad thing. We can assign it as a good thing. Nothing is good or bad until we assign a thought to it that makes it good or bad. And so we were reassigning his thoughts around this specific incident. And it was a breakthrough. He wasn't just like, oh, yeah, that sounds good. The next day, he called 5 different apartment owners. One lady said, no, she was not interested. 3 people did not answer, and he left voicemails. One lady answered, said she did not want to sell because she was going to give it to her child. But he pushed a little further, and you know what? She has other properties for sale that she would be willing to sell. And they're going to talk when he gets back into town. I mean, results not typical, 5 phone calls and he got something. But the point is not that he found something. The point is that he was stuck, didn't even know why, because it did not make any logical sense. He's sitting there saying, I want to close apartment deals, and he's focusing on accounting and his website and polishing up his underwriting and things that are not going to move the needle, right? If he finds a off-market good deal, he will close a deal. There's so much money out there and people that want to buy apartments, he will get a piece of a deal, no problem. If he talks to investors and pre-raises $1 million to invest in someone else's deal, he will get into a deal, right? But those things are scary. Those things are uncomfortable. Those things have chance of rejection. Those things have that fear around them. And so our amygdala says, no. That's going to feel bad. That's going to be a threat. I don't want you to feel bad. I don't want you to go through that. So I'm going to protect you from that. We're not going to do that. We're not even going to process that. It's just, no. Like, I don't even know why, but I'm not doing that. And that's where we have to move beyond that. We have to push that thought up into our neural network. And we have to reframe that fear, because a lot of times the amygdala is not serving us anymore, right? It was there to protect us from the bear mauling us, from getting speared through the heart in war, but cold calling is not war. Making a deal happen, talking to somebody about investing in your deal or quitting your job, like, you're not going to die over that. And yet our brain can't tell the difference. In fact, the emotional pain is so much more sinister because it lingers on. And then the amygdala, next time something happens, it combs through every memory, including that last memory, drags it back up, and prevents us from taking action again. You wonder why people won't take action, why they won't face fear. It's because they're not processing it. They're just relying on that lower level fight, flight, or freeze. And most of the time, they're just freezing. They're just not going to take action. So we've got to cleanse that. We've got to rephrase that. I talk about it in another podcast on the model of how to take thoughts and reassign those thoughts around these actions. And those actions and those thoughts are going to generate emotions. And if we can generate the correct emotion, then we can take the right action. So if you think about, I took him from, oh, wow, if I make a call and I get rejected and it's a good thing, and I get stronger and I get better and I get one call closer to my win and I get closer to buying that apartment and I get closer to getting financial freedom, get closer to quitting the job that I don't want to be doing anymore, that's generating a new emotion. And we're emotional creatures. We only act out of emotion. The logic backs it up, but we act first out of emotion. So if we can start to shift those emotions, because we can't control them. We can control our thoughts, can't control our emotions. Not totally to that degree, right? You feel some way, you just feel that way. Well, how can you generate a new emotion? Only way to do that is by generating a new thought around a circumstance that we consider to be bad. And yet, circumstances are not good or bad until we assign a thought to them. So guys, start rebuilding and rewiring those pathways, because the circular reasoning that can be so detrimental with the amygdala and the negative feedback loop can also be super positive when we start to rewire our brains, grow those synapses, grow those neurons, increase those connections to positive feedback loops. That's how you see people go from meteoric rises. That's how you see people's mindsets just vastly improve. It's because they start to break that cycle. They start to take a little bit of action, and then that positive reinforcement starts spinning the flywheel the other way. And they start pulling up on a massive trajectory, and they start to unlock their life. Guys, that's all I got for you today. Appreciate you. If you enjoyed this talk today, man, give me a review. I would appreciate it. Share it with your friends. That's the best way to help me, for one, and also to help other people, right? I'm in a mastermind because I listened to a podcast and the guy changed my life, right? He was talking about things that really helped me to unlock my life. And you don't know who you're going to help by sharing this podcast. You don't know who you're going to help who's looking on iTunes or whatever. They read your review and they say, oh, well, I'm going to give this a chance. And then boom, something happens that helps them. So that's a real tangible way that you can do something positive to help people out there that you may not even know. But appreciate you guys. Have a great week. Hit me up on Facebook. Hit me up on Instagram. Jennings Foster Smith Jr. On Facebook, Jennings Smith. My First Million in Multifamily is my Facebook group. And we appreciate you. Peace.
This is the podcastfactory.com.